Hi, everybody. Lynn Burkhead of MajorLeagueFishing.com with one of the best anglers, one of the hottest anglers on the planet right now, Mr. Jason Christie. Jason, we're 48 hours since you just won your last Elite Series tournament over in Dardanelle. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. That was it was a really sweet win.
It was a very exciting thing to watch, and there were several Major League Fishing anglers involved in the process, including you, and it's going to make for good television. But Major League Fishing does some pretty good television, too. And you're going to make some of that a little bit later this week. But let's talk about the time of the year that we're in right now. When I get into the month of May, one of my favorite ways to catch a bass, one of my favorite ways to unwind is to go out with a buzzbait late in the evening and go see if I can whack one. Have you ever had a lot of success with a buzzbait?
You know, actually I have. It tends for me that buzzbait fishing kind of comes in spurts. You know, it seems like there's years where I really throw it a lot. Then there's years where it's not so much, and I think that's just depending on conditions and stuff. You know, one of the things, like you said, usually in May in our area the fish are coming off bed, and that's a really good way to catch them on a buzzbait because they don't really want to eat. You know, they're more in a post-spawn funk, but a buzzbait kind of makes them mad and makes them bite. You know, black is my preferred color in the post-spawn. You know, we go more to the fall. I go to a white or a shad color, but you can't go wrong with a black buzzbait in May. That's for sure. One of the things that I see a lot of people they don't do is they'll pick it up early in the morning and late in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's been a lot of days where I've thrown that thing, you know, daylight till dark, and even in the sunshine. It all depends on kind of what depth of water you're fishing. The shallower it is, the more you can throw it pretty much all day.
We're still, with the kind of spring and winter that we've had, there's still, even in the South, there's still some places where shallow water fishing is really red hot right now.
Right.
You mentioned mistakes that guys like me tend to make. One of those is not fishing it enough. What are some of the other mistakes that weekend warriors make?
Well, I'll say this: I've caught fish on a buzzbait consistently with water temperature in the 40s. You know, high 40s. It's just, you know, it's just the day. You know, you get one of those days. You know, it's kind of cloudy, and those fish, you can tell they're wanting something above their head. You know, I've thrown and when you get a bite on a buzzbait in 40, low 50-degree water, it's bigging. I mean, he's going to help you, and I always like it though when the water temperature is coming up. You know, not going down. If it's 50 and it's going down, buzzbait probably not your deal. But if it's 47, 48 and it's starting to rise a little bit, you know, a buzzbait can catch them. And I've caught them, you know, as low as in the 40s. And of course, there's no maximum water temperature. You know, it seems like the warmer it is, the better a buzzbait is. But you know, a couple of different sizes. I keep it pretty simple. I'll throw a 1/4 ounce. Most of the time, it's all a 1/2 ounce. You know, I can make a long cast with it and make a lot of noise and get those fish to react.
You said a lot of noise, and that's one thing I know in talking to some of Major League Fishing's other buzzbait enthusiasts. Alton Jones comes to mind, and some others. They like to tweak the bait and make it even noisier than it is out of the package. Do you do anything to the bait to make it noisier?
I really don't. You know, there's really two different kinds of buzzbaits I classify. One is, you know, just a free spinning blade where it doesn't come in contact. And then the other style is one that has a clacker or it hits the head. And I throw both. I probably throw a clacker more than anything. And I tend to do that. You know, I reach for a clacker or one that makes extra noise when it's windy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or there's a lot of vegetation. I want those fish to travel 10 or 15 feet to try to get it. If the fish are pressured, then I go just to a free spinning blade, you know. But as far as tweaking the blades or anything like that, I really don't. It's straight out of the pack. It's just, do I want a free spinning or do I want a clacker? And those are just decisions made on how much noise I want, how much pressure the fish have had, you know, from anglers. And, you know, those are the factors that I make the decision on.
What type of line are you going to throw it on? What type of reel rod setup?
I throw a buzzbait strictly on braid now. And the main reason I do that is because if you throw a buzzbait on fluorocarbon, it's just going to twist your line. You're going to get aggravated. And braids still twist, but you just don't notice it as bad. You know, a lot of times I'll spool my buzzbait up in the spring, and I don't re-spool. And I may re-spool once a year. I use a 7-foot, kind of a medium heavy. I want a rod with a buzzbait that has a pretty soft tip. That way I can make a long cast, and when I'm reeling it, that fish can get it. He can load my rod a little bit, and then I can see. You don't need a really stiff rod on a buzzbait. You know, all a buzzbait is really a spinnerbait. You know, I go to a little longer rod so I can make a little bit longer cast than I would with the spinnerbait. And I use a 7-to-1 reel just so you know, I can manage that more. If you're using a 5-to-1, you got to really reel really fast. And 7-to-1, you know, I usually reel, you know, I click it along pretty good. But braid, a 7-to-1, and a 7-foot, you know, medium heavy is pretty much my choice.
Buzzbaits, a lot of guys think of them as target-oriented baits. You throw them at something that you can see, some covers, something that is visible. What do you throw buzzbaits at? What are you looking for as a good place to let it land?
You know, anything. Cover, grass, wood, rock, anything really matters. And a buzzbait to me is really a good bait if I'm going down the bank flipping something. You know, and this happens everywhere. You're flipping something, or you're targeting something, and there's always a space. You got 50 or 75 yards. Hey, there's my next target's down there 50 yards. Rather than picking up the trolling motor and moving, or just coasting down the bank, that's when I'll pick up a buzzbait and just fan cast between those targets and start off target fishing on down. If I'm not targeting those with a buzzbait to start off with, you know, I actually won a big tournament. One of the first big tournaments that I won was an Everstart, and I caught some really key fish. I was flipping docks, and some of the docks would be tight, and some would have space between them. And on the space between, I would pick up a buzzbait, and I caught a couple of key fish that week that I wouldn't have caught. You know, I wouldn't have won the tournament without them.
Yeah, I've experienced that same thing on my home water, being able to throw a buzzbait between docks. Maybe it's my mind. I'm not a tournament fisherman. I cover tournament guys like you,
Right.
But I fun fish. And maybe it's me, maybe it's in my mind, but it seems like, at least, I typically catch bigger fish with a buzzbait than I do with other baits. Is that true, or am I just imagining that?
No, it tends, you know, a buzzbait's kind of in that same category to me as a jig and as a swim bait. It just attracts bigger fish, and it's just one of those baits. You know, we all have baits in our boat that if we catch what we think is a good sack for the day, we always reach for a bait that catches bigger fish, and a buzzbait is definitely one of those baits. You know, one of the things that I kind of forgot to say is on a buzzbait, I 100% all the time throw a trailer hook. I just so many times, you know, some of the fish bite a buzzbait. I should say that most of the fish bite a buzzbait just out of meanness. You know, they just want to kill it. They don't want to eat it. So I'll actually put a trailer hook on the back, and then, you know, there'll be days where you'll have a trailer hook and they still won't hook up. Well, if you're fishing open water, which we do a lot with the buzzbait, you just turn that hook over, point it down at the fish, and that'll hook up most of the time. So those are pretty much the standard keys that I use on buzzbait.
Now, you mentioned key tournament win, how buzzbait came into play. Is there one fish? I know Jason Christie's caught a lot of great fish down through his career, but can you think of one fish maybe on the buzzbait that kind of stands out more than the others?
Well, like you say, there's a lot. And it's hard to pick one. A buzzbait to me is not a bait that you're going to win a tournament just on a buzzbait.
Sure.
A buzzbait's a bait that you're going to just have one flush key bite from a 5 or 6 pounder that's going to help your sack. And I've caught a lot of those. I can think of one. It wasn't necessarily in the tournament, but it was in a practice session. You know, I fished through an entire area, and I was in the process of writing that area off, and the water temperature was in the 50s, and I thought, well, I'm gonna pick up a buzzbait and try it just a little bit. And I'm at the end of this area, and I pick it up, make a long cast, and a 5 pounder gets it, and that right there opened my mind to this area. Well, maybe there's a lot of fish here, and I end up winning the tournament out of that area. And I caught a couple of fish. You know, they weren't giants during the tournament, but I ended up catching a couple of fish during the tournament. But it was just that one bite on the buzzbait, just something. What it was is those fish in that area, they weren't biting.
Mm-hmm.
But that buzzbait, that cast that I made that one fish mad, and it told me that there was enough fish in that area, you know, for potential success in the tournament.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun to fish, and we appreciate the info and the techniques. You can learn more about fishing baits like a buzzbait from great pros like Jason Christie by going to MajorLeagueFishing.com.